Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week I continue my 5-part series on Exalted 3rd Edition with the third part of the settings section, talking about the various Exalted. This is going to focus on the ones that they gave summaries of in the Corebook, so it's not going to have the Infernal or Alchemical Exalted, but it's going to have most of the others. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about the Panoply of the Exalted. We start off with the Solar Exalted. These are the ones that the Corebook itself deals with the rules for creating and playing. The Solar Exalted are the mightiest of all the Exalted. They are meant to be the epitome of human excellence and are the champions of the unconquered sun. Because of this, they are divided into 5 castes that pretty much are specific sets of natural inclinations. The Dawn Caste are naturally inclined to be the warriors. They are mighty warriors, brilliant strategists, just by their very nature. The Zenith Caste, representing the sun at its peak. These are the leaders of men. These are the priests of the Exalted. They rally people, inspire naturally. The Twilight Cast are craftsmen and sorcerers. Anything involving working with the hands or studying is going to fall into the Twilights. The Night Cast are those who are prone to go into those dark places and root out the greater darkness. They are the thieves and assassins of the Solar Exalted. The Eclipse Cast are the diplomats. They naturally are inclined to create treaties and administer businesses and such. They're basically the ones who keep everything going, ultimately. And from the Solars, we move to the Lunars. The Lunar Exalted are, like their patron Luna, ever-changing. The Lunar Exalted are the shapeshifters of the Exalted. They can take shapes related to wolves, which is the most common imagery, but they can also change into any animal that they have learned the shape of. And in some cases, they can even hybridize between these forms. They have 3 castes. The Full Moon Caste, which are those who are the warriors among them. They are the raw physical prowess personified. The Changing Moons are the masters of guile and charisma. And the No Moons are their mystics. And while the Solars were created as the pinnacle, the Lunars were created to be their right hand. In fact, many Solars were married to Lunars in the First Age. And the Lunar's job was to act as the agents protecting the realm of the Solar Exalted. And then the usurpation happened, and now they're about avenging their failure. From the Lunars, we go to the third of the Celestial Exalted, the Sidereal Exalted. These are, as a group, seers. These are the people who created the Immaculate Order as their way to control the realm after the usurpation. And they have their 5 castes. The Chosen of Journeys. These are those who are exalted by Mercury. They concern themselves with travelers, roads, paths, etc. They basically make sure people are getting places safely. And that's their job. The Chosen of Serenity are the Sidereals of Venus. They're there to arrange marriages, make sure they're happy, and also make sure that things that are bound don't break apart. The Chosen of Secrets are those who are Jupiter. They are the ones who basically keep too much prophecy occluded. They try to keep things from being known that shouldn't be known. The Chosen of Battles are, of course, Mars. And they look at the march of armies. They look at the prophecies relating to warfare and making sure everything goes smoothly for their side. And then the Chosen of Saturn, the Chosen of Endings. These are the ones who make sure everything ends when it is supposed to. Whether it be lives, nations, or the world. From the Sidereal, we move to the Dragon-Blooded. These are the Terrestrial Exalted. These are from of course, the 5 elemental dragons, who are their patrons. And their aspects don't precisely give them a role like the others do. They give them certain natural personality tendencies. Aspects of air tend to be quick of thought and studious. They go for contemplation and are subtle as a breeze or dynamic as a thunderstorm. Aspects of earth tend to be geared towards patience and stability. They like to go for things that are in place. They like to build things up to be centerpieces upon which other things depend. Aspects of water are adaptive. They flow as they need to. Aspects of wood tend to be more connected with the living world. They tend to be geared more towards nature and gardens and similar. Aspects of fire are passionate and full of energy. Anything one who's a aspect of fire does, they go full into it, not holding back. And with that, we've covered the first group, the original Exalted. Now, let's move on into the second batch of Exalted. What happens when dark forces aligned with death manage to capture and twist the exaltations of Solars? You get the Abyssal Exalted. The Abyssal Exalted are essentially solar exaltations that have been realigned to be lawgivers of death. Every single Abyssal Exalted serves an entity called a Death Lord. And each Death Lord have their own political aims against each other, but they are all servants of death itself, where they march Shadowlands, the realms where of the dead that you can walk across in this time, expand. And the Abyssal Exalted have 5 castes like the Solars. The Dusk Caste are vicious warriors. They are duelists, battlefield reapers. They are death in the form of the reaper, reaping his scythe across the battlefield. The Midnight Caste are their preachers, their priests, their speakers for the ancestor cult, their lords of the dead. They exalt the glories of death. The Daybreak Caste are the craftsmen and necromancers. They are the ones who shape souls into their weapons of soul steel. The Day Caste are their spies and assassins, who go forth into the daylight and hide among the mortal population, or the normal population, bringing information back to their masters. And then the Moon Shadow Caste are the masters of the laws that hold the underworld together. They are the emissaries between the agents of different Death Lords, keeping things working smoothly as they bring the world of death out into the realm. From there, we get to the oddity. What are called the Liminal Exalted. And basically, the Liminal Exalted are Frankenstein's monsters. They are grafted together, cobbled together from bits of dead bodies, and the process of animating them is their exaltation. They are in, of course, 5 castes as well, or 5 aspects. They are to the Abyssal what the dragon-blooded are to the Solars. So, again, their aspects are more personality traits. The aspect of blood, they are wellsprings of passion, and they are born from lust, greed, and ambition. Aspects of breath arise from regret and repentance, and they tend to be reflective, and they are, quote, alive with the power to possess, motivate, and animate. In other words, they tend to be necromancers. Aspects of flesh, they come from rage, vengeance, madness. They are moved by anger and lust, and change is what they drive for. Aspects of marrow are the curious and obsessive. They are calculating and analytical. They're psychopaths, basically. And they look for the secrets underlying everything. Aspects of soil, they come from soil and they come from sorrow and despair. They are introspective, and they look for signs and omens. They're sort of the prophets of the Liminal Exalted. And then, finally, we get the Exigents. Exigents are born of a need. A local god. Maybe it's a harvest god overlooking a wheat field. Maybe it's a god of a small river, or even a great river. Sees something happening, and it cries out in anger, rage, despair to the heavens. Sometimes the unconquered sun hears this cry, hears this plea for help, and sends a spark. This spark finds its way to someone. Now, of course, the bureaucracy of the heavens, the politics of the various gods in Yushan, sometimes diverts this somewhere it shouldn't go. But either way, this spark from the unconquered sun finds its way to a mortal. And that mortal is exalted. But not as a Solar Exalted. They are exalted in a way representing the god that cried out for help. Some of them, their power level is nowhere above a dragon-blooded, and could be even below one. Other exigents, the power level could rival a solar. It all depends on the need and the amount of power that the unconquered sun sent. No exigent is the same. You could have two exigents from the same volcano god, and they would both be different. Oh, there'd be similarities, but they would still be different. They wouldn't have the same power level, they wouldn't have the same tendencies or natural abilities, even though they're exalted of the same god. And with that, I conclude this video on the different Exalted. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Alchemical and the Infernal Exalted are not listed here because they're not in the Corebook. In fact, I don't know if they're actually going to be getting a treatment in this edition or not. With that said, next week I will be talking about the mechanics for Solar Exalted and touching on the ones for the Terrestrial Exalted. Lunar Exalted, that book isn't out available to people who didn't back that yet. So I'm not really going to be able to talk about the Lunars yet. Or any of the others. But until next week, I want you all to remember, have fun, and keep gaming.